Welcome to another episode in this inventory tutorial series, and this is episode 3, and today we're going to look at how we can create items which we can pick up, also droppable items and equipable items so that we can equip items. So let's get started. So what we'll start off by doing is right clicking our asset right here, then create a new folder. I will call this folder for items. Now open this up, and inside of here we're going to right click again and go to create, do another folder for each item which we're going to create. So we have an axe and we also have wood. So now I can go back to assets and we have our axe right here and also the scriptable object. So just click right there and select both of these and then drag them onto the axe folder, and for the wood I'll drag these two onto the wood folder, like so. Now that that is done, we can go to assets and go to the scripts folder and open up the inventory and inventory. In here under these two variables I'll create another one which would be a public game object called container. And then simply in our update function right under these two, I'll do if input.getKeyDown, which will be keycode.tab. I think it should be tab when you want to open up the inventory. Well, then we will do container.setActive to exclamation mark container.active in hierarchy. So we basically just invert the active state. And then we'll also set cursor.logState to be equal to cursor.logState, where we will check if it's equal to cursor log mode.logged, and then we'll add a question mark, and if it's logged we'll set cursor log mode to none, and else we'll do cursor log mode.logged. And this is just a smart way to do it instead of having a bunch of if statements. Then under that we'll do cursor.visible equals not cursor.visible. So again we just invert it. Now this should all be working right now. So if we now head back into Unity and we click on our canvas and the inventory right here, we need the container, so click right there and drag the container onto here. And now let's hit play, and now if I hit tab, it inverts, and let's click it again. And yep, I added some wood because I pressed W, but right now we can still look around, so we'll fix that in a minute. Now head back into the inventory script and delete these two because we're not going to need that anymore, because we're going to be able to pick it up from the ground. So delete that. Then we'll now head back into Unity, where we'll right click down here in the scripts and inventory folder and go to create and do another mono behavior script, which will be called item. So this will be on every ground item which is on the ground. So open that up, and this is a very simple script. So just delete the update and start function, and then we will add a public item SO called item and a public int called amount, which will be set to 1 as default. So this is just some information it will have. Then we'll now head back into the inventory script, and in here right under our drag icon we will add a public float called pickup range, which I'll set to 3, and a private item called looked at item, so the item we're looking at, and a public material called highlight material, so we will have like a highlight material, for example like a blue or something, so we can see what item we're looking at and we're about to pick up. Then we'll also add a private material called original material and a private renderer called looked at renderer, which will be null in the beginning. Now we can scroll all the way down and create some new functions. So we will add a private void called pickup, where we will check if looked at renderer is not equal to null, and input.getKeyDown is keycode. For example, I will do E in this case. Well, then we can do item equals looked at renderer.getComponent item. So now we have the item class, and then we can check if item is not equal null, and if it isn't, we can do add item.item, item.amount, and then after that we can actually destroy the item we've picked up. So we can do item.gameObject. Now we'll add one more function, which will be a private void detect looked at item, where we will check if looked at renderer is not equal null. Well, then we will reset the previous highlight. So we will do looked at renderer.material equals original material, and looked at renderer will be set to null, and original material will also be set to null. But if this is not the case, well then we can shoot out a ray, so do ray equals new ray, which will come from the camera.main.transform.position, and it will shoot in the camera.main.transform.forward direction. and this is exactly the direction of the camera, of what it looks at. So now we can check if physics.raycast, where we will input the ray we just created, and out raycast hit, which we will call hit, so we can get some information of what our raycast hit, and we can set the max distance to be the pickup range. So in here we can do item equals hit.collider.getComponent item. So we try to get an item from the collider which we hit with the raycast, and then we can simply check if item is not equal null, which means that we've actually hit an item, and then we can do renderer rend equals item.getComponent renderer, and we can check if rend is not equal null, and if it's not, well then we can set original material to be equal to the rend.material, so we remember the old material, and after that we can set rend.material to our highlighted material, and then we can do looked@renderer equals rend. Now perfect, now we can call these two in the update function. So scroll up here at the update function, and above these other functions we'll do detect looked at item, and under that we'll do pickup, like so. So now we've called both of these functions. Now what we'll also do is go to our player cam. So if you have one of these, you'll have to make sure in the update function right here to do if not updating rotation, well then we will return. And also at the top up here we'll make it a static instance, so we'll do public static player cam, so the name of your class, and call it instance, which will be set in an awake function, so do awake, where we'll set instance to this. So this is just to make sure that we don't rotate when we're actually in the inventory. So go back into the inventory script, and in here when we press tab right here, we'll also make sure that player cam.instance.updating rotation is equal to not player cam.instance.updating rotation. So it just inverts itself. Now try to head back into Unity, and we'll click on the container and actually disable it in the beginning. Now hit play, and we have our hotbar down there, and when I hit tab, you can see now we can't move our camera around, and when I hit tab again, we can look around and all of that. So perfect. Let's now add some items. So we will go to assets and go to the items, and for example let's go to the X first. Then I'll disable 2D mode up here, and then I'll double click on the player, so we go down to the player right here, where I'll now right click, go to 3D object and choose a cube. So this will be our first item, and let's call this the X item, and add an item script to this one, and we need an item SO, so let's drag the X onto here. Let's also give it a rigid body, so it falls to the ground, and now we can drag this one onto here, so now it's a prefab, and we can click on our X right here and actually drag this X item onto the item prefab right here. Now let's do the same thing for the wood, so go to items, wood, then I'll right click again, 3D object, cube, and I'll call this wood item, and I'll add an item script to that, drag the wood item SO onto there, and let's add a material to this one. So right click down here, go to create and do material, I'll call it wood matte, I'll just make it a brown so we can actually see the difference. Now drag that onto there, like so, and also add a rigid body, and now we can drag this one down here too. So now we have the wood item too as a prefab. So now we can go to the inventory, and we need to create the highlight material. So just go to assets real quick and we'll just add it out here. So I'll right click and create a new material called highlight matte, and I'll make it like a bright blue, something like that. Then I'll click on the inventory and drag the highlight material onto here. Now just head into your slot script, where we will actually have to initialize this in another way because our inventory is not active in the beginning. So we'll just go to our update slot right here, and up at the top we'll just check if icon image is equal to null, and if it is, it means we have not initialized yet. So then we can just take these two and put them in here like that. So now we have initialized, and now we can actually hit play out here, and now when we look at our items they turn blue, and when we hit E we actually pick up the item and now it's in here, and the other one, also the X. And now we want to be able to press 1 and 2 when they're in the hotbar so we can equip them. So let's add that. So open up the inventory script, and in here we'll add some more stuff. So we will actually add a private int called equipped hotbar index, which will be 0 in the beginning, and this will be able to go from 0 up to 5 because we have 6 hotbar slots and 0 also counts. Then we'll add a public float called equipped opacity, which will be set to 0.9, and a public float called normal opacity, which will be 0.58, which is the same as it is right now for our hotbar, all of the slots. So the opacity will just go up for the hotbar slot which we have equipped. Now I'll scroll all the way down, and we will add a new function. So we will add a private void called update hotbar opacity, where we'll add a for loop, and in here we'll do int I equals 0 and I less than hotbar slots dot count, and we'll do I++. So here we just loop through all of the hotbar slots, and then we can do image icon equals hotbar slots I dot get component image, and then we can do if icon is not equal null, well then we can do icon dot color equals parentheses I equals equipped hotbar index question mark. Well then we can do new color, where we will do 1, 1, 1, which is just white, comma the equipped opacity, and then we also need the other case where we will do new color, that will be 1, 1, 1 for white, comma the normal opacity. So here we just check if I is equal to the equipped hotbar index. And that's all for in here. Then we can also create another function. So we'll do private void handle hotbar selection, and in here we'll do for int I equals 0, where I should be less than 6, and then we'll do I++, because we have 5 slots, so it needs to be less than 6. And in here we can check if input.getKeyDown, where we will add another parentheses where we will do I plus 1, and we'll set this to string. So this should be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And then we'll just do equipped hotbar index equals I, and we will update the hotbar opacity. Then we'll create another function which we're gonna call handle drop equipped item, so we can also drop the equipped item, where we'll do if not input.getKeyDown, where we'll do keycode.q. So I want it to be q, which you drop items on, just like in Minecraft and all those games. So we'll just return here if we are not pressing the q key, and then we can do slot equipped slot equals hotbar slots, where we'll input equipped hotbar index, so we get the right hotbar slot. Then we can also do if not equipped slot dot has item. Then we will also return if the slot just doesn't have an item. Then we can't drop an item. But if it has an item, we can do item so equals equipped slot dot get item, and then we can do game object prefab, so the prefab we want to spawn, which we can set equal to item so dot item prefab. Now we can check if prefab is equal to null, so if the scriptable object doesn't have an item prefab, well then we can just return. And now to spawn the actual dropped item, we'll do game object, which we're just gonna call dropped, which will be equal to instantiate prefab, comma camera dot main dot transform dot position, so it will be at the camera's position, plus the camera.main.transform.forward, so it will just be a bit in front of the camera. Then we'll do quaternion.identity for the rotation. Now we can just assign all the values for the dropped item, so we'll do item equals dropped.getComponent item, and now we need to set the values, so we'll do item.item equals item so, and we'll do item.amount equals the equipped slot.getAmount. So we drop the right amount, so if we had 5 wood and we dropped it, it will actually be 5 wood, which we drop. And then lastly we can just do equipped slot.clear slot. So it's very convenient we created this earlier. Let's now go to the update function and call all of these functions. So we'll just do that at the end down here. So we'll do handle hotbar selection first, and then we'll do handle drop equipped item, and lastly we'll do update hotbar opacity, like that. Now head back into Unity, and if we hit play now, we should be able to drop our equipped items, and we should now be able to pick up items and drop them. So let's pick up these items and drag them into the hotbar, and let's press 1 and 2. You can see you can go through the slots by pressing 1 up to 5 or 6. So let's press Q, and it worked for this one, but it didn't work for this one. So let's look at why. So go into your items and go to wood, and we forgot to add the item prefab right here, so just drag that onto there. So now it works for both of them. Now let's create the equipable part so we can actually equip items. So on our player right here, I'll just click this drop down, and under the camera right here, I'll just right click and create an empty, which I'm gonna call hand. So an empty game object. I'll set the position of this to 0.65 and minus 0.43 and 0.7. So right here, it will be a bit in front of the player, and that's the whole point. Now we actually have to create the hand items for the wood and for the axe. So just like we created this one, we need one for our equipable item. So I'll actually just drag this out right here, and I'll change it a bit. So first I'll actually right click on it and go to prefab and click on unpack completely. So now it's just a normal game object again. and I'll call this wood item underscore hand. And here I'll just remove the rigid body and also the box collider and the item. So now it's just visible basically. Now I'll drag this down here, then click on the wood and drag this one onto here. So now we have the wood item hand on the hand item prefab. Now let's do the same thing for the axe, and I'll just delete this one also. So drag the axe in here, and I'll right click on it, go to prefab and click on unpack completely, then delete this one and this one and this one, and let's call it underscore hand. And now drag this onto the folder. Now click on the axe item SO and drag it onto here. Perfect. Now delete this one. Now head into the inventory script and scroll all the way down. So we will add a function for equipping items. So we will add a private void called equip hand item. And let's just scroll up to the top where we will add a public transform called hand and a private game object called current hand item. Now scroll all the way back down to the function where we will first check if current hand item is not equal null. Well, then we will destroy the current hand item. So we basically remove the previous equipped hand item. Then we'll do slot equipped slot equals hotbar slots where we will input equipped hotbar index. So we get the current slot, and then we'll just check if the equipped slot has an item, and if it doesn't, like this, we will just return. And then we'll do item SO item equals equipped slot dot get item, and if item.hand item prefab is equal to null, well then we will return again, and we will do current hand item equals instantiate item.hand item prefab comma hand. So on the hand we spawn that item, and then we can do current hand item dot transform dot position equals vector3.0, so it's located at the 000 position, and current hand item dot transform dot local rotation equals quaternion dot identity. And I'll actually also do this one local, so local position, like that. Then just go to this hotbar selection function where I'll add this equip hand item function, like that. And we'll add this a few more places. So also in the handle dropped equipped item, so right in this one, just at the bottom right here. And also in the pickup, so right here, right after we've destroyed the item. So perfect, now we can head back into Unity. Now we can click on our inventory and we can drag the hand, so this one hand, onto there, and let's hit play. And let's pick up an item. Yep, it's right here. And when we select it, it's a bit in front of the camera as you can see, but we can select it. So let's just go out here, and we could, for example, move the hand a bit forward like that. So now we can actually see it. A bit. I can now drop it, for example, and select the other one and drag it down here. And let's have both of them. And yep, we select both of them. You can just move the hand a bit forward like that. So I really hope you liked this episode. I hope you understand how you can add items easily. So you just need an item SO, and you need an icon, and then you need a ground object and also a hand object. So you can just keep on adding more items if you wanted to, like that. Make sure to check out the next episode, which will be coming out in the next few days, which will be on item descriptions. So when you hover over an item, you can see a description of the item. And also check out my school community in the link in the description, where you can ask direct questions to me. But yeah, that's all. Have an amazing day, and see you in the next video.